The second P of these 3 Ps is percentage giving. Percentage giving is the idea that you're going to choose to give God a first percentage of all of your income. Now, the Bible gives us a standard, 10%. It's called the tithe or the tenth. And in the Old Testament, people were told to give that tenth. It was not really the law. It was established before the law was even given. It was a reasonable response of worship. The first time a tithe was given is when Abraham was overwhelmed with the goodness of God, and he gave a tenth of everything he owned to God. And this was the first tithe. It was an act of worship. And so when we think about the tithe, it is a reasonable response to the greatness, the goodness, and the generosity of God in our lives. So that's the tithe. Now, when we talk about percentage giving, I want to encourage you to consider the tithe. You may not be a tither. If you're not a tither, I want to challenge you to do that. I know it seems big and it seems risky. That's what the Christian life is about. But maybe you're not there yet, and you're not ready to give the tithe. I want to encourage you to start somewhere, to choose a percentage, to give God a first portion of a percentage that you choose to give Him, and then stick with it. What happens with this is it takes the emotion out of giving. When things get tough, you've already made a commitment to God. God knows where you stand, and He will provide for all of your needs as you are faithful to give Him the priority, the first part, and the percentage that you have committed to Him. Percentage giving is a beautiful way to show God that what you're doing is really important, and that you're going to give Him that portion of everything that you have. Then the third P is progressive giving. And progressive giving is a fascinating concept, really. It's the idea that you're never going to stay where you are for a long, long period of time. It means that every few years or so, every couple years, every few years, whatever it might be in your life, you're going to choose to give God a little bit more. It's the idea that the only way we can grow in our faith is by being faithful, okay? The only way you can grow in strength is to exercise your muscles. The only way you can grow in your faith is to be faithful. And to increase your faithfulness to the Lord by increasing what you give every so often means you're stretching your faith. You're stepping into unknown territory. You're taking a risk for God. And something happens to us spiritually when we do that. One of the most amazing things about this whole concept of generosity is that we experience God at work in our lives when we live this out of our lives. It's like when we choose to be generous, it is one of the most tangible ways that we express faith in our lives and sacrifice in our lives and authentic faith in our lives than any other way. And God responds with doing a work in us. So progressive giving is this constant process of saying, God, I'm going to step out a little more. I'm going to take a little more risk. I want to show you that you mean even more to me. And so I'm going to move forward with my faithfulness to you. So those are the 3 P's of giving: priority giving, percentage giving, and progressive giving. Now, here is what the temptation will be when you're finished with Quake. You may have been moved, you felt God working in you, and yet when you get away from these scriptures that you've been reading and the small group that you've been in, it's going to be very easy for you to suddenly be inundated and overwhelmed again with the messages of the world and the stuff of the world, and you'll take a step back. Now, if you've taken a step forward during Quake, don't step back to where you were. In fact, take another step forward. Don't stop. This is what TREMORS is all about. How will you let what has happened through Quake continue to have a long-term effect in your life? One of the things I want to encourage every one of you to do is to find 1 or 2 or 3 people that can be accountability friends for you. In other words, maybe you're taking a step of faith, you're starting to engage in giving in a disciplined way, maybe for the first time in your life. Find someone else who agrees with you in your decision, and it may be someone right in your Quake group, and you say, you know what, I want you to check in with me on a regular basis to see how I'm doing in this area of generosity in my life. Now, I know that's scary, but what you do in taking that kind of action is you're saying, this is important enough to me that I want someone else to help me to be faithful in this discipline and choice in my life. So you may want, I want to encourage you to ask someone, maybe even in your Quake group, to hold you accountable in the months and years ahead for these decisions of generosity. Now, I want to close today with a final verse, which I just think is beautiful and is very challenging to me. It's from Isaiah 32, verse 8, and it goes like this. But generous people plan to do what is generous, and they stand firm in their generosity. But generous people plan to do what is generous, and they stand firm in their generosity. That is such a neat verse. And what that says is we're going to stand firm in our generosity. The question is whether or not you truly have chosen to be a generous person. If you've chosen to be generous through Quake, then stand firm in your generosity and do whatever it takes to be faithful to the Lord in this area of your life. I promise you that you will see God doing amazing things in your life as a result. Now, I will not be giving another message on a Sunday after this. This is the end of Quake for you. I want to thank you so much for being a part of this, for being active in it, for the commitment you have made. I am excited about the work that God has begun in you and the work He will continue to do in you. And I am anticipating great and amazing things that God is going to do in and through Edinbrook Church through Quake, and mostly through the work that He has done in your life and in my life and in all of our lives together through this experience. God bless you richly as you live out the truths of generosity in your life. Thank you.